into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then, one more time. Tally, not now! I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa! No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait! Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Oh, Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost through. Okay. Oh! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. 할래니 נפשי ישובב ינחני במגע לצדק למען שמו.
What you have just watched is a concept short for a musical animated feature film on the story of David, and our vision is to tell it in the same quality as movies like Tangled and Frozen. This is more than a movie. This is a movement to join people from all over the world to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. You can show your interest in investing by going to angel.com/David. Growing up in the wild of Africa was the most incredible experience, and it was there that I bumped into the most amazing character of God and fell in love with him. At the same time, I was reading David's story, and it just really struck me. On one particular canoe trip on the Zambezi River, where you could canoe for days and not see a human being, I was reading the scriptures and I read, "I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart." And I thought how amazing it would be to do a film that would give people all over the world a glimpse into God's heart. We grew up on a farm that had no electricity. I only saw my first film when I was 14 years old, and it was such an electric experience. I was blown away by the power of film and the power of story to connect with people and move people. And from that day, I became passionate to tell a story on the life of David. The question is, can a group of farmers from Africa make a global hit that's going to reach the world? This is in and of itself an incredible David versus Goliath story.
There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And in order to tell a story as big as David, we need people from all around the world to come together.
Over the last 20 years, Jackie and I have just been blown away by how God has miraculously drawn talent to us. Now we have the most awesome, high-quality team.
Like Nathan Stanton, who spent 22 years at Pixar, Jonas Myron, a Grammy Award-winning musician, Borja Montoro, a Disney animation alumni, other talent from massive films like Big Hero 6, Tangled, Finding Nemo, Zootopia, Moana, Prince of Egypt, and many more.
Our first breakout hit is Jungle Beat, an incredible and beautiful show. On our YouTube channel, we get over 2 billion views a year. We've got 7 million subscribers. We also recently released our first animated feature film called Jungle Beat the Movie. And incredibly, it was on Netflix's top 10 for over 2 weeks, both live action and animated feature films in the US. We are also doing a theatrical release of Jungle Beat the Movie in China later this year and are in production of Jungle Beat the Movie 2. What really excites me is if you take Jungle Beat the Movie, we produced that for $5 million. And I'd really encourage you to go and watch it on Netflix to see the quality of movie we produced for that price. And just imagine the quality of movie we could produce on David with the proper budget. With David, we considered the route of engaging with Hollywood, and there is significant interest down that route. But we really felt that from a creative point of view, we need to stay the head and not the tail of this project. And it's a slingshot, like David went with a slingshot to fight Goliath. We really believe that the strategy needs to be outside the Hollywood system for it to work. In this vein, we are thrilled to be working with Angel Studios for distribution. Angel Studios did the TV series The Chosen, which has become the world's biggest TV series on the life of Jesus Christ. The Chosen has generated hundreds of millions of views and tens of millions of dollars. We've already got $19 million of investments and need another $35 million to complete this project. We need your help to bring God's heart to the world through the story of David. Go to angel.com/David to show your support for this project now. And let's join together to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining this live stream about David, the animated feature film. I just really appreciate your time. I know in this modern world how precious time is, so thank you for your time, and I hope you're going to enjoy this evening or today's live stream if you're in the US. So we're talking about David, the animated feature film, and recently when I was going through the airport, I saw a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and one thing I'd like to do at the beginning of each live stream is just repeat why are we making a movie on David and why animation, besides the fact that David is one of the most incredible characters in history, just so energetic, explosive, musical, just the most incredible character. There's a much deeper reason for me why, and that is that as I grew up in the wild of Africa and just went through nature, which we're going to be talking a lot about tonight, I fell in love with God in that space because I just saw his beauty in the sunset, in a thunderstorm, and the wildlife, and the animals, and the flower. And I was just like, wow, just loved his character. But David's story captured my heart because there's a verse, which you'll have seen on the video now from Acts, that says, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. So I became passionate. I was still at university, and I became passionate about, like, what if we could tell a story about David? Because a story about David might open people's hearts and minds to the heart of God. So that's the why David. Of course, it's going to be an incredibly entertaining film, no matter what, just because of who he is and his character and the real story behind him. But also, I'm hoping that it brings a window into God's heart for people around the world. That's one thing. Why animation? I love animation because it's got the power to cross race, cultural, and age barriers and gender barriers better than any other medium in the world. If you look at your big animated blockbusters like Lion King, Tangled, Frozen, they get around the globe. Someone who's 4 loves them, someone who's 12 loves them, and someone who's 94 loves them. So for me, to tell a story in animation medium is just so powerful because it can connect with the broadest audience in the whole world. I hope, for those of you who watched the demo, I hope you saw the passion that's gone into the quality and the team that's being built, because my one passion is to tell a very high quality story and to produce the movie in the most high quality way possible. So part of that is building team. And I think over the last 20 years, we've really been conscious of building towards this project and building the most incredible team. So just to say, tonight, we're still at a gauging interest phase. To date, we've already raised $25 million on the project. And with the crowd, we're now gauging interest. And at the bottom of the screen there, you can see we've already got interest from over 5,000 people for $5.8 million of gauging interest so far. And if you want to look into this further, you can go to angel.com/David. And that's where you can find out a lot more about the project. And the one thing we said for tonight, I love goals and I love competition. I'd love to set us a goal tonight to see it from the beginning of the live stream to the end, if we can move the needle by $10,000. So if you do pledge during this live stream, please in the column, and if you're on YouTube or Facebook, just post perhaps your name if possible and how much you pledged. Or if you don't want to remain anonymous, then someone just pledged 55,000K. So that's incredible. So thank you. So that goal of 10,000, we just blew past in one pledge, but thank you so much. And For the rest of us, let's keep going on 10K. But our passion is quality, people, and then a story that can really connect with the world in the most incredible way. Tonight, what I'm excited about, we're going to be talking about how do you cast God in an animated feature film? How do you portray his character? How do you go about that? And yet keep it in a way that is authentic to the way David would have experienced God and the way he would have, his faith journey. So obviously he didn't have a Las Vegas neon sign saying, go this way, David. So how do we go about portraying God in animation? Tonight, a lot of the live stream is going to be with our art director who's going to join us later, production designer, art director, Linton Levengood, who's been on 4 of our research trips to Israel. Incredible guy who just loves the building authenticity. But tonight he's going to be talking about a lot about how do we cast God in an animated feature film. And a question I've got for you is, what is God's role or what is his character in your life? And if you were to put him into a movie, how would you put him into a movie? And we'll tell you how we're going about it to some degree. But just think about that for yourselves. And also, if you've got questions, please just pop them in the live stream. We'd love to answer questions at the end of the live stream. So any questions, any thoughts, go there. Before we go to Linton, there's a couple of things I quickly wanted to tee up from my point of view. Going back to nature, one of my passions, and I just wanted to read a verse from the Bible. It's from Romans. It says, Romans 1:20, since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen and been understood from what has been made. And I couldn't agree more. If you look at nature, there is so much that clearly points us towards the artist. So if I can say creation is the piece of artwork and the artist's fingerprints are all over nature. And so I think if we look at creation, we're sitting at looking at the most incredible canvas. And the one thing I wanted to say about that is, if you take a Monet painting or a Van Gogh, if you throw a painting at a canvas 1 billion times, you're never going to get a Monet. You're never going to get a Van Gogh. There's intelligent design behind a Van Gogh or a Monet or any of those beautiful artists and their paintings. So when I look at creation and I look at the stars and I look at like the detail of a dung beetle to an ant, to the ways the cells in our body move, to a sunset, there are so many clues and just so much evidence, intelligent design behind what's around us. I just want to stop for a second and you think about the speed of light. The speed of light it'll go around the world 5 times in 1 second. And our galaxy is 100,000 light years across. Okay, so we just got to absorb that for a moment. That's 100,000 light years, our galaxy. And our galaxy is one of billions. So just the sense of that scale in creation. And you go down to like a little dung beetle or a little flower and the complexity in the xylem and photosynthesis and the way a plant works or the way a dung beetle works or the way an elephant works and their culture and an elephant herd. It's just incredible. So for me, how we cast God in creation goes back to the root of this movie. For me personally, when I was canoeing down the Zambezi River, as I said at the start, that's where I connected and felt God's heart. And so I think this is where it's going to be such an exciting live stream about how do we go about casting God in animation. Before we go there, though, just a quick reminder for those of you who just joined us. If you want to find out more about how you can support this project, we are in a gauging interest phase, a pledging phase. This is our second phase, and you can go to angel.com/David to find out more about the project. We're trying to get to $10,000 tonight, so if you can pledge and join us, we'd be so grateful. And our passion is a quality film. If I can say it's a hybrid between, let's say, The Prince of Egypt and Tangled. Prince of Egypt for the beauty and authenticity, but then Tangled for the energy and enthusiasm and humor. So we're really trying to build a world-class product. So that's where you can go to find out more about the project. The other thing, our social media channels are really growing. And one of the recent things we've tried to get going, and we are getting going, is TikTok. And I'd like to share, last week, we just announced that, and I shared our last live stream, and we shared a little video we'd done on TikTok. And I thought I'd just share a bit of a behind-the-scenes TikTok video we just did, which is linked to the demo you've just seen. If you were here at the beginning of the live stream, we played a small demo on the David movie. So maybe if the tech team could just queue up that TikTok video for us to watch.
Okay, should we do one more? Just so we have it.
Okay.
So if you get a moment and you can post about our TikTok channel and point towards other social media, that's another way you could support, and we'd really appreciate that. Shortly, I'm going to invite Linton Levengood onto the screen, but before I do that, I'd just like to share one more thing, a thought about casting God in animation and God as a character in the David movie and how we go about that. I was walking down the beach. We've got a beautiful 4-kilometer beach just down from our studio here with my son the other day, and picked up a grain of sand on my finger. And I was just thinking, isn't it incredible? Our life on this earth, if that one grain represented 70 years, and then the beach is just billions and billions, trillions of 70 years. That's how short this life on earth is. And on this earth, sometimes we might say, why can't we see God? Why can't he audibly talk to me? The one thing I want to say is there is a very good reason, but he has left us, and there is enough, like it says in the Romans, to know about his character, by what's around us, and that we can trust him. And that's the one other thing I want to say about our life on this earth. Sometimes it feels like a hairy, lumpy that's crawling along the ground, but what that turns into is a beautiful butterfly that can fly. And they're two, you could hardly bring two more different creatures together, but they are one and the same. So sometimes life on this earth might feel like, where's it going? But I really encourage you, as you think about that caterpillar, what it turns into, and to remember that our life on this earth is like one grain of sand on a beach. And while we live here, we've got the incredible privilege of an amazing canvas, creation, which is around us and tells us so much about the beautiful character of God, his kindness, his patience, his power, his love. And so I'm just blown away every day when I wake up and look at creation in all different parts of the world. It's just, it declares who God is. So, Linton, I'm going to invite you onto this talk show now, onto this live stream, to talk more specifically, though, about our film, David, the animated feature film, and how we go about portraying God as a character as we go along in the story. So, Linton, welcome, if you can join me on screen. And hey, Linton,
hello.
Welcome to the live stream. Nice to have you on again this evening, or today by US time. Welcome.
So excited to be here. Thank you, Phil.
Linton, I'm going to hand over to you and actually pop off, or just take a back step at the moment and leave it to you to talk. And at the end, I'll come back with a couple of questions for you. But for the guys on the live stream, I just want to say, if you've got questions as you're listening to Linton talk, please just pop them in the live stream, and then we'll do our best to answer them at the end. And just one more comment again, if you want to pledge or support us, you can go to angel.com/David, and you can find out a lot more about the project there and how you go about that. So, someone just said, Linton, if I could just say, invested 2.5K in the first round, and they just pledged another 1,000 now, with the help of Lord Jesus, hoping to do more. So thank you so much for firstly investing in that first round and then keeping on with us on the journey. Thank you, whoever that is, Jay. Linton, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'll pick you up on the other side, but I know what you're going to say, and I love it, so I'll see you on the other side while you talk.
Thanks so much. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to share a bit about what we've been working on the David film and the David shorts that we're working on as well. It's quite a challenge to portray God in an animated film. He's an invisible character, but he's the most important character, certainly to David and to the story. So we knew that we would need to come up with some tools to help the directors to tell the story they wanted to tell. So as a production design, as the production designer on this I was working with him named John Burton, and now I'm also production designing. We knew it was important to come up with tools that would serve the directors in telling the story. So we called them visual story brushes, and these brushes are symbolic tools that can be used to illustrate God and the relationship that characters have with God in the film. And the director can use them however he wants, but I'm going to share some of them with you. So we're going to look at some images together, and I'll kind of explain what they're about. So the three things that we're going to talk about are golden light, Tachelet Blue, and harmony with. So let's get golden light together. We can pull up some images now. So firstly, God is light. So we really wanted to like lean into the scriptures where we were thinking, coming up with ideas for how he would portray God in the film. So symbolism is a long-standing tradition in Christianity, and in the Bible itself, God uses symbolism of color and descriptive things in the Psalms and in the Old Testament. Often nature is used as a symbol for talking about God as well. So golden light was the first thing that we lent into, and it's very important for David. So when David is on screen and he's in a good place and a good relationship with God, like in the beginning of the film, the directors might use golden light to show that he's in a good place with God. So here you can see Samuel and another character together, and Samuel is one of the holiest characters in the film. So this shot is really leaning into the golden light to illustrate that he's got favor with God and that he is close to God. So symbolically flooding the shot with golden light, that's what we're trying to lean into here. And here you could see David. This is obviously not the final design of David. It's just a concept exploration by John Burton. But he's in a bad place. He's going through the desert, and he's symbolically blocked off from golden light. He's going through a hard time, but God is still there, but he's in the shadow. So it would be a deliberate choice to illustrate that relational note in the story with God. And if we go on to the next picture, so here you see not only God is represented by light, but also David's relationship is so strong with God that he also brings light into situations. So this is a concept for David in Saul's palace, and he's playing music, and he's going through the house as a little boy. He's running through, and now you can see him running through a kitchen here, and we're deliberately framing him in a golden light from outside. So it takes a gloomy environment where Saul is oppressed and transforms it because God is with David. We're introducing golden light. So these are things that David isn't going to be walking around in a beam of golden light the whole time, but it's, as I said, it's a story brush that the director can use when he wants to make a statement about David's particular standing at that point in the story with God. And here you can see the opposite, where if we want to make a statement where a character is far from God, here you have Saul, and he is obviously tormented and troubled in the story. Those of you know the biblical account, he's a very oppressed person, and he's literally putting up barriers between himself and golden light. So he's blocked up his windows, and so you can see, as much as introducing golden light can illustrate a character's favor or good standing with God, it can also show that they're in a bad place or feeling cut off from God. So that's firstly, this is what we're talking about when we talk about golden light as a story tool. So the next thing we can move on to is Tachelet Blue. So another very important symbol that we came across through research is this particular color called Tachelet Blue, and it's from the Old Testament, where the Israelites were commanded to wear a thread of blue on the corners of their garments, and that blue was from a very specific little shellfish snail that was on the coast, and they have only just recently rediscovered the ancient source of that color, and they are using it again in modern tzitzit, the tassels that are worn on the corners of the garment. So it's a very important color to Israel, and it's a very important color symbolically, as God commanded the Israelites to wear it on their clothing. So as it's so important in history and in the Bible, we really felt it appropriate to find a way to incorporate it symbolically as a symbol for God in the film. So here you can see it's a bad quality image, but it shows this color is also the natural color that happens when you are looking through air over a long distance. When you see distant mountains, you see that the color of the mountains shifts to this blue color when light passes through the atmosphere, and we felt that was very cool. That God is everywhere, and we live and breathe in Him. And when you are looking through space, it literally transforms into this color. So we wanted to incorporate that in our thinking when we were working with shots in the film, as another brush for the directors to use to communicate relationships with God in the film. So here you can see one of our beautiful paintings done by many artists working together. But you can see here, this is a very deliberate painting that uses the two ideas. One is the Tachelet Blue. So David is in a really good place. It's at the beginning of the film. He's a young boy, and he is happy and in a good place, and he's out in the fields and he's close to God. So we've framed him against this Tachelet Blue, and you can see the golden light on the grass. It's not a beam of golden light, but there's a warm gold sunlight bouncing off the grass. So it's not always very obvious, but when we use these small little threads of color symbolism throughout the story, and it builds with the director's story that he's telling, it's something that you'll start to really notice throughout the course of the film. And if you go to the next image, here's another really great example of Tachelet Blue being used, where you have the holiest moment of the film, where David is being anointed as king as a boy by Samuel, and we've literally flooded the shot with blue, and you've got the gold in the olive oil being poured over his head. So it's subtle but really great. We really like the thread that is starting to weave as well. And of course Samuel as well. This isn't the final design of Samuel. This is an early concept, so there's still development to be done, but we really feel that the blue that he's wearing is something that'll carry through, because he'll have the most of that blue on him, because he's the closest representative of God we have in the film. So you can see how these symbols are starting to weave together to bring God and his feelings about the situation to life. And if we move forward onto the last one, harmony with nature. So this really leans into what Phil was talking about. Creation speaks about God, and it's a testimony of his greatness and his reality. How a character interacts with nature and is situated in nature is going to be important in the film as well. So here you see David with his little sister, and deliberately framing the shot, looking through flowers and making nature a third character of the shot is very important, and by extension making God a part of this. So if we can go on to the next image as well. So here you can see this is a concept of Bethlehem, and the way nature is interacted with by the different cultures in the film. So you've got the Israelites and the Philistines and Amalekites, and all of them will react differently to the world around them. So for Bethlehem, it's at the start of the film when David's still a boy, and it is the most tranquil place. It's his shire, like in The Hobbit. It's his happy place, and you'll see that the houses nestle into nature. They don't fight nature, and the trees and the plants grow over all of the walls, and it's just really nestled into the landscape in a very harmonious way. And if we contrast that to this is also not a final design, it's a concept and it's an early exploration, but this is an early exploration of what Gibeah could look like. And here you can see it's much more urban, and nature is taking a backseat. It's more subdued. So that it's just, in a way, it's symbolically saying that human-centeredness is kind of being elevated here. It's about Saul's power and his expanding kingdom. He's forgetting God in a sense. So that's another way that this can be used as a story brush for the directors, as a tool, a harmony with nature. And another inspiration of ours for symbolizing harmony with nature and as a style influence for the show is this artist named Alphonse Mucha. So this is a little behind the scenes view into some of our inspirations for visual stuff. Is we felt that Alphonse Mucha's art really symbolized a great flow and a harmony with nature as well. So the characters you can see here, the people are being embraced by nice rounded curves. It's very aesthetically pleasing to the eyes, and we felt that this really is what we wanted to kind of bring into the Israelites and into our portrayals of them, how we do their fabric and how their architecture fits with the landscape. So you'll see in this next image how that can be explored. So here you have a picture of David in the landscape, and he's, it's a nice, pretty picture, and he's on his way somewhere. But behind the scenes, we're putting a lot of thought into the flow and the harmony of the set. So if you go to the next image, you'll see some of the thinking, the way that the path curves and flows and leads your eye. We're trying to put a lot of thought into that, how it's using complex curves and kind of embracing David and really framing him in the shot. So it's wherever David is as well, we'll fill the air with little insects, like life follows David around as well as Samuel is another character who would have a lot of life in the environment with him. So little bugs in the air and birds flying around, it will be present. But when a character is like the Philistines, they're more focused on themselves and on earthly things. So they really make nature conform to their way of doing things. So they cut the trees and shape everything. And there's less life around them, and characters who are further away from God will also pull back on the little bugs in the air and all those kind of things. So these are just three things that I can share with you that help us provide brushes for the directors to tell story and bring God into the story in a symbolic way. So yeah, I'm glad I could share that with you. I'll invite Phil back onto the screen. Yeah, so here we go.
Yeah, Linton, thank you so much. And I think what's so incredible about filmmaking, and particularly animation, is like what you're hearing from Linton, everyone on this live stream, is just like the very smallest tip of the iceberg. So there's so much that goes into an animated feature film, and there's so many ways you can tell your story and craft your story using camera angles, light, other characters, the pace of animation, music. So, Linton's touched onto one aspect of it. But Linton, thank you. And I know those are just a few, even in the concept art. It's like such a small glimpse of what goes on. I'd like us to invite, if there are any questions at this stage, please feel free to pop any questions on screen. If there aren't, we'll carry on talking a little bit. I'll just read that comment. I pray There'll be an art book about this. I'll trade my Frozen art book for the David art book any day. I love that. There's absolutely going to be an art book for David. And in fact,
So
one of
much
our
art,
passions is to do an art exhibition. Yeah, one of my passions is to do an art exhibition. So for some of you, you might have heard of the Van Gogh immersive experience. I feel we've got, I mean, on the wall behind me, we've got 800 to 1,000 pieces of beautiful environment art. And one day we'd love to have a moving art exhibition that goes around the world. So yeah, so art books and an art exhibition is one of our dreams, by the way. So thank you for that comment on the art book. I love that. And yeah, I'll just check if there are any questions. How do we invest? I've only been able to express interest. So yeah, let me dive. Great question. So quick summary on that. The film's budget is $55 million. Let me just say that typically animated feature films take 4 to 7 years. That's the production cycle typically. So to answer your question, up to date, we've raised $25 million, and now we are gauging interest for the next $30 million. If we see a really positive result in the pledging phase, so if you pledge, we've then got your details. And then if the pledging is positive, which so far it is looking positive, we'll go live in probably August this year, August, September. And that's when it'll become a real opportunity to invest. And then the people who've pledged, we'll contact them, and then they've got the opportunity. It'll be on a first come, first serve basis. But then you've got the opportunity to actually convert your pledge into an actual investment at that point, if we go down that route, which it's looking like it's looking very positive. So probably the best way is you pledge now, and then you can invest in August, September this year. Anyone know if there'll be a second teaser anytime soon? Okay, I've got an answer to that, which you might not expect. We've actually got, if I can say it, 5. I'll explain, but we've got 5 teasers coming your way. So the teaser you saw sparked a conversation with a really awesome group of people in the US called Minnow, Go Minnow. It's a Christian streaming service for kids, and they're there to try and produce and distribute great Christian content. So we've done a deal with them where we're going to make 5 David shorts of 5 minutes each, similar to the teaser you've just seen, and we're going to give a theme to each one. So it's going to be warrior, shepherd, poet, king, worshipper. And it's all about young David. So same as you saw in the demo, that demo you've just seen. So just before the movie starts, there's like prequels to our movie. 5 shorts, 5 minutes, 5 teasers. I'm so pumped about this because we finished the scripts, and each script, say Linton, has got its own beautiful flavor and story and characters. I mean, Linton, you're working on it. I don't know if you want to comment on those 5 shorts at all to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, they each cover a different aspect of David's personality. We kind of get to explore a bit more about who he is: warrior, shepherd, poet, king, and worshipper. And they focus around David's younger life. So we get to see him being a little shepherd boy, which is great. And there's a lot of there's thrilling action. And there's really great, deeper moments of his character, music. There's just so much that's going into developing this. We've talked a bit about in previous streams. We talked a bit about the lyre and the thought that's going into developing the musical instrument that he plays. And yeah, we're really trying to go all out. We're referencing really closely some actual places in Israel that we had the privilege to go and actually walk in and swim in even. So there's this beautiful place in Israel called Wadi Kelt. And every time we've gone there, the first time I went there, we stood on the hill overlooking the valley. And it was a really great view. The second time I went, we actually hiked down. And it was in the middle of summer, and I was so thankful. We went down there and we swam, but I really underestimated the heat and how difficult it would be to get up there. And if I didn't get a lift up in a car back out, everyone else hiked, and I got a lift up with a few others. I think it would have been a very different trip if it wasn't for that car. But it's a very special, beautiful place.
Yeah, just keying into what you're saying, Linton, those 5 shorts, we're building them around real life experiences geographically that we had and pulling off that, and then obviously production designing into it. But yeah, I'm so excited, and just to talk more to these, because we'll use them to really tease towards the film and get people, the world, to know about David's character. So we'll finish these. Next year, and then they'll be released before the film. Will God be portrayed as the Father or as Jesus? So in the film, we're coming at it very authentically from the David at that time. So at that point in David's journey, in history, it was before Jesus. So it's going to be David's relationship with God, although we know that Jesus was referred to as the son of David, like that line. So very much, obviously, David and how it's portrayed in the Bible, if that makes sense. So how David calls out to God and how he communicates actually in the biblical text is similar to the way we're going to be portraying it in the movie, to answer that question. Yeah. But obviously my heart is that David's life and the story points towards Jesus, because ultimately for me that's what it is about, and that's who it's about. And so my hope is that David's character and his heart actually points people towards that, because one of my favorite verses is that Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I pray that this movie points that way. But for an authentic point of view, we'll be telling it as it's told in the Bible.
I think one of the most beautiful things is, what I talked about tonight is just a few of the little color symbolisms and all of these things. They're just tools for the director. But what really excites me about these stories is, it supports David's story, and it's unavoidable when David just, as somebody who has a heart, God said, as a heart after his own heart. Just the way he acts and everything, those correlations and those links are going to be unavoidable as a Christ-like figure that David is. So it's just being true to who David is in the Old Testament is, I think, going to be wonderful. So yeah.
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. Never had a question like that, but I love it. Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Let me know how we can donate. Like a lot of this idea, with a good story and good quality for all ages. Thank you so much. Probably the best way to donate is actually to pledge, and then actually when it goes to funding, to donate through actually investing. And in that way, you actually stay part of the journey as well. You become a preference shareholder in the project. You get all the newsletters. You go for the journey. So just say probably the best way is to go on angel.com/David and actually go through the pledging. And then when we go live with investment, to actually invest, because we'd love you to be part of the journey and go along with us on that. So yeah, to answer that question, thank you for that question, Alexis, and I hope that answers it for you. But you can go to angel.com/David and find out more, and you can ask questions there as well. We have got a Q&A page. Here's a very interesting question. Will you be offering NFTs from the final production as an incentive to invest? So right now, we're working on our whole NFT strategy. So I'll just say there's a lot of minds. I'll come back to the lot of minds story, but just quickly to answer your question, Barbara, we believe that, I'll just say something about the NFT, what's happening in the NFT world. Like anything new, it's a bit like the Wild West. There's some good things happening and there's some smoke and mirrors. But the one thing where we feel we've got a real play into this area is we've got something of real value. So Linton's been working with our team. He knows what they are. We work with, and we are working with some of the world's best artists. Guys have been 20 years at Pixar, Disney, incredible local artists. And we've put together already, before the film's even released, so I'm not even talking about NFTs from the actual film. We've got, as I was saying earlier, probably 800 to 1,000 pieces of environment art. We've got numerous pieces of character art. So two things in my heart. The one is to have an art exhibition like we talked about. The other thing is to make this art available for the world through NFT auctions that we do in stages. And that'll be leading up to the release of the movie. So if you watch the space, our website, our social media, there's definitely going to be NFT sales, but also there's going to be a reward probably, and I just don't want to overpromise because we're still working on what that looks like, but in the next investment round, I hope there'll be a way where people who invest to a certain amount also can get a gift of an NFT alongside that. But just to say, we're still working out the strategy. I want it to be something that's got real value, and I believe we're sitting on real value with this incredible artwork that we've got already. We've got a bank of beautiful artwork. Yeah. So great question, and keep watching the space. Okay, last question. Will we hear God's voice at any time in the film, or will his presence be more subtle? So to say on this movie, it's going to be definitely more subtle, because that's how David himself, as we read the text, which we're pulling it from in the Bible, that's how it was genuinely in his experience. So like if we were doing a movie on Moses, obviously when God does audibly speak to him from the burning bush, then we would do that. So it's not to say God never speaks in audible voice, because we know there are moments in history where he chooses to. But in David's experience, it was a walk by faith, not by sight. But he experienced God. So we're going to hopefully show God. Oh, the one thing I want to comment on that, though, is if you read the Psalms, we know that David wrote half the Psalms. And so you can see how much he connected with God in his spirit through his writing and through his songs. So music's going to be another way where you see him connecting with God in a big way. And then nature, like Linton was describing, through God and the way he experiences God and nature. I was reading one thing just on that to give you an example of Eugene Peterson's, where it's a book called Leap Over a Wall about David. And it says when David entered the valley of Eli, he came in with a God-dominated imagination, and the rest of the valley had a Goliath-dominated imagination. But he rewinds and he says, basically, he says it better than I'm saying it, but he says, where did that God-dominated imagination come from? And he goes back to David with his sheep up in the hills, in nature, connecting and understanding the rhythm and nature of God's character, and then bringing that expansive worldview or point of view into a very hard situation. So to answer your question, we'll stay authentic to what we read in the scripture and David's experience of God like that. But great question. Thank you. So Linton, I think we'll end the live stream there. Just to say, for any of you who'd like to support us or join the journey or just track it, you can go to angel.com/David. Oh, wow. And we've gained nearly $63,000 in pledges through this live stream, which is, thank you guys. That's incredible.
Thank you so much.
Especially since we had a goal of, thanks, Linton. And especially since our goal was 10, that's amazing. And I just want to say, for those of you who were on at the beginning, my wife has got a great African proverb, which I love. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. So for those of you pledged tonight, I really want to say you're joining a movement, a family, and an exciting adventure. And when we go along the journey, we're going to keep communicating, keep connecting. And we'll connect with you when we do go to a proper finance raise phase, once we finish pledging and gauging interest. But thank you for those pledges. It really means the world to us. We've got a team. I just want to say to end off, and Linton knows this so well, it takes hundreds of people to make an animated feature film. It's not a small task, and it doesn't happen fast. And hundreds of talented people who really do care. So they will be appreciating your support and your pledges tonight, because we're working with some of the world's best who're giving of this, and to see your support tonight, thank you. We really appreciate it. Linton, thanks for a little into what we can see through casting God in the movie, and there's so much more to it, but thank you for your time, Linton. We really appreciate it. And
thank you for
the work Linton and his team are thank you. The work Linton and his team are doing is incredible. So Linton, I think we'll end off just by showing the demo one more time. And for those of you who joined us today or tonight, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have an amazing day. We'll look forward and we'll post about our next live stream. Please watch the space for the next live stream. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then. One more time. Tally, not now. I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa. No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait. Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Sally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost there. Okay. Oh! Whew! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. Yena haleni nafshi yeshobeh yancheni b'magalet tzedek leman shemo.